So I realize I've done a lot of, my more recent workshops have been on jumping right into like building extensions and haven't focused much on how to actually get that running locally so you can test a lot easier um, and then how to publish it or work on it publicly so that you can have it in cloud or server or have access to it. So that's what this workshop will be for, is to kind of go backwards to the setup and start of that the extensions. So all right, so I'm going to walk through the parts of the extension, and then that includes like a trex file and some web-based files. So basically, an extension is web files. So um, if you build an extension that's going to run in Tableau, you also could open that locally and depending on how it's set up, potentially test part of it just locally before you have it running in Tableau. And the trex file that we talk about is um, just a manifest, or it's kind of a small set of instructions for Tableau on where to look for the web files. And that's what this workshop is about, is how to host those files locally so Tableau can find them, and then also host them publicly. So let's look at trex or trex file. So it's made up of XML, and it has some elements that are required. And then there are some kind of, I guess, like setup or configuration elements to this. So this is kind of standard, the top tags here. Um, so this doesn't like necessarily run anything. It's just kind of standard way to ID uh, your extensions. So it's kind of a reverse URL here. And then the version, um, the name doesn't really matter here, but description is here. And I'll show you where parts of this show up in Tableau. Then I've just put in author name, email, organization. The part that is most important in this is the URL. So source location tag, and then URL. This is where this is what Tableau will read in desktop to know where the actual files are. Let me see if I can make that bigger. Then this is a setup. So when you're building a Viz extension, what's cool is you're actually modifying the marks card area to make it custom to your Viz extension. So, where generally there's the color, um, detail, tooltip, all of those in the marks card area. This section right here defines those elements within the workbook. So, where this is the standard color, size, text, detail. When you load up the Viz extension, these will change to match what you've set up here. And then the web elements then have used these IDs to interact so that the workbook can interact with the web code. So we'll show that looks like. So that's basically it for the trex file. This, let me load up this Sankey. It's just like a very simple Sankey, which isn't the main focus of the workshop, but I'm gonna load the Sankey and we'll see some of those elements that are in the trex show up in here. I think this is I probably have 100 extensions running somewhere, so for this to spin is not usual. Try it again. So I'm just doing the regular drop down and then add extension at the very bottom. This is not usual. It's unusual behavior. I've actually never seen it not load, but let me just try a new work here. Hmm. Let me actually just gonna restart or pull up this other version of Tableau. I gotta find the right folder. Okay, try this again. Add the extension. There we go. Okay, so sorry, I kind of skipped that. Um, what you want to do when you're developing is use this button here, Access Local Viz Extensions. That will then open up like a folder prompt where you're going to select the extension that you're building. And what you're going to select is just the trex file that points to everything else. So I'll go here, and the one that I've already shown is just called helloviz.trex. So when I open that, here's where you'll start to see some of the things that were in there. So you can see the name that was at the bottom that I shared, Hello Sankey Local. And then the URL that this trex file is looking at is the local host, and then 9999 is just the port. Index.html is the just the root file. So this is just a prompt you'll get to approve that extension for loading in your workbook. So I'm gonna hit OK. This is a splash screen, and it's custom. If you don't build a splash screen, I have to see. I think you just get um, a blank canvas here. What you want to do when you're building this part is kind of describe the elements that are required to get the extension running. So this one is prompting us saying we need to drop a dimension on the source and a dimension on the target, and then measure on the value. And we can see now those three marks cards, how they've replaced the usual default ones that we see here. If I can zoom in this. No. So to build this, I'm just going to choose two dimensions. So I've got like case status, drop that on the source, and then we can do department on the target. And so that's going to take, on my left will be the case status. So these are cut off. I didn't do a lot with the actual extension, improving it too much, but so these are the three statuses, and these are the departments within a medical facility. So this loaded, it's basically just taken the bands, and they're all equally sized, split. So because we didn't drop a measure on, so I have duration. And if I drop that on value, it's still gonna be the same, but I think the data set is too uniform. But if I do average, then we'll see the difference. So this element, the Sankey element is created in the web files. So like the HTML and the JavaScript files contain the code to build the Sankey. And that's how all of the custom extensions are possible, because Tableau is just rendering the web elements in what would be like an iframe. When you're using this Viz extension chart type, or there's also the dashboard extension type, which is similar, but the same. Tableau is rendering it the same. So let's look. Also, we looked at the trex file, but we can see, so this is looking at index.html. So I have my folder here from 0, and then index.html is the file that the manifest or trex file is pointing to. So if I go to the index, this was all, again, as I usually do, this was generated with Claude. And so I'm not going to go through the code because I'm not a web developer. But the elements in here are what will actually display in Tableau once your extension is loaded and you have the correct fields dropped and everything. So we have the HTML, and then what I usually do is package the library JavaScript that Tableau hosts or produces. This is a requirement for the extension to work. So it has JavaScript libraries or methods that I don't know exactly, but they work with your HTML and your JavaScript to render correctly. So if I were to go to, let's drop these off real quick. Okay, and then so here's the section or area that's driving the splash screen. So you can kind of see this is actually built probably like JSX, I guess, where you're using or building HTML through the JavaScript. But you can see the text, and then there will be logic, like because this changes when I drop a source, the message changes. And you can, because it's actively looking for changes here, like that I dropped the case type, you can have the message here, where I would have dropped off the source requirement, and I could just say, okay, now you're missing target and value. So just some customization you can do to help your users know like how to put together the elements that they need, and then if there's something missing, to include those. Put this back to average. That's not very interesting. Okay. Then, all right. So let's look at the actual hosting, locally hosting. This is my local server running down here. This is just a terminal. I can use the terminal So I'll show that as well. While I'm in, you want to be in the root file, which is where your index file is, um, depending on how you're set up. But right here, this kind of points you to where you should start your server. You want the server to run in the same, when it looks like this, it doesn't have any other directories. You want to run that server when it's set like this, where your index file is. And I'll kind of change it around to show other options. But if I do open in terminal, then I get the terminal screen, and there are other little local servers you can run, but I run mine in Python. So one requirement is to do it this way is to have Python installed. But I just do the Python command, then -m as in Mary, and then http.server, and then space, and then the port. And this has to match what's in the trex file. So actually, before I do this, I want to stop this server so they don't compete. And go back here. So when I run this command, we get the message serving HTTP on port 9999. And one thing to do is so that you can take Tableau out of, like, when you're troubleshooting, or if you need to troubleshoot, and you want to take Tableau out of the equation, you want to make sure that this is all working, or your web elements are working correctly first. You can go directly to that. If I type in localhost and then the port, or a colon, then port, and hit enter, it should render something here. If you didn't have the splash screen, then it would. I had this element loading even without the splash screen, but if you shouldn't get any errors when you hit the local host that you've defined, if you're running your local server correctly. So this is one way to check before you start trying it in Tableau, or if something's not loading in Tableau, then you definitely want to come directly back to testing here first. So you obviously can't do anything unless you set it up a different way. A lot of times also the extension won't have been built to run really in the browser, so you'll get an error, or not an error, but a message that says cannot find Tableau, because it's expecting these elements to only be running in Tableau, not on the browser. So that's another thing you'll see if like a splash screen hasn't been set up. So let's go to, so this is just how you run your local server. And so I'm going to stop the server and then go back to Tableau. I can't remember which one it was. Oh, it's this one here. So this is still rendering, but let's say you made updates, you're testing here, you want to see the updates. As long as you haven't changed anything in the manifest or trex file, all you have to do is hit the drop down and click on the extension you've already loaded, and then it will refresh with any changes that you've made. This is expected because I stopped the server, and that's what I wanted to show, is if my localhost server is not running, this is the message that you will see. If let's do a little change to kind of show you some of the common things you might see. And I did want to share like what this hierarchy might look like if you're not just going straight to the index, like maybe you have another folder in here. Let's just call that another, and then I'll save that. And then I'll build this into here. So this will be another. I'll drop that index copy. I'll actually change this to match a little bit. Let's call this another index. And what I need to do then also is change this Viz extension to another index. So now it's going to point at that correctly. And this is kind of to highlight that before I ran the local server from this root file to run this index. But if I wanted to, or if the files were built a little different like this, then I would have to change to that root. So cd another, and then I could run the same command, but it actually won't. Kind of a silly example, but it won't actually load because the index file is looking for this library and it's not pointed correctly. But let me see. We can still go to the local host that was running off of the old version. Let me see if I stop this. And then seems to be running. Sorry, but it is stopped here too. I don't know if possibly. Oh, yeah, it could be. Let me try something. Sorry, this wasn't intended. It's possible. Yeah, okay. So the index file in this case was built with everything included into it. Or it was built in a way that it didn't actually need the local server to be running to render it. So even though I shut down the server, it still loads because it was built as a self-contained. Generally, that won't be the case. So you'll need the local host to be running. But that's why I can't get this to stop. So yeah, that was just a little bit on file hierarchy. So we'll go back to the original of this and so I think we've covered everything for local. When you make changes, again, if you make any changes to this trex file, then you have to let me comment out this, which will break the extension, but I want to show how that works. Currently, So it runs on the browser, but not in Tableau without the localhost server running. So if I refresh here, it's gonna work fine. It's looking, the manifest file is cached within the Tableau workbook, so there aren't any errors and no change, even though I made the change locally. But if I do add extension and select the original trex file, so this is it's running still because the value wasn't required, but you can see I dropped the sorry, the source is gone. Still loading. So I can't explain why it loads, but the you can see I removed the source mark card and now it's dropped off of here. But you won't see those changes. Like let's say you needed to repoint your trex file, then you have to make sure you reload the extension completely as as in adding a new extension. So let's look at, that's all local. But if you publish this dashboard, it's going to publish fine. But this, the extension won't run because it's only set up currently to run from your local. So we'll look at how to set this up to run hosted. And what Claude needs, so one cool thing you can do on server, you actually can run these files on server under localhost. If you, I don't know if this is recommended, but you can run, if you're on, if you have the privileges to run a local server directly on your Windows or Linux machine that is running Tableau server, you can run these extensions on that machine. Let's say you had access to the VM, not just not just Tableau that's running on the VM. You could run this small local server and host your extensions directly on the Tableau server VM. If you don't have that access or you're running Tableau Cloud, then these files, the not the trex, but the files that the trex are pointing at, all need to be available to the cloud server. So meaning that they need to be unlocked. They can't be I guess locked to the server, and that doesn't mean they're going to be public necessarily to everyone. You still can have the controls that you would have within your organization, and where you allow only like the Tableau Cloud IPs, which you would have to whitelist to access those web-based files. I'm gonna share. So if you're not worried about those files being publicly available, you can host them on an open S3 bucket, or if you're using Cloudflare, you can host the files there, as long as they're either wide open, publicly available, or locked down and the cloud IP has been granted access. Those are the options you have. Or obviously we have the Tableau Exchange, where anything there, those are all basically this this setup running on the files that have been uploaded there are just hosted files that are running on a server somewhere, so that those extensions work through either in desktop or in cloud. Let me know if you have any questions. I know I'm gonna show an example, but that
Hey, Eric.
yeah.
Hey, it's Mithun. Well,
Mithun,
thank you so much for
see.
for this presentation. Just had a question. So if the company has Tableau Cloud, so
Hmm.
you're saying that you would have to host this on the Tableau Exchange in order to be able to access it, or because it's hosted by Tableau, correct? Tableau Cloud. So is that
Yeah.
what you're trying to say?
That is one option. If you go and grab an extension from the exchange, then it's going to work. You'll still have to mention one more part, but it doesn't have to be on the exchange, but it has to be hosted somewhere that cloud has been given access to, whether that's access because the files you've published are wide open to anyone who has that URL, um, or you can have it like you can have those files hosted and um, like the folder where those files are sitting, wherever they're sitting, maybe even in S3 cloud. The cloud IP addresses have been whitelisted to
Got it.
access those files. So
Got it.
if you're
Okay.
hosting yourself, it just needs to be that those IP addresses can access the web-based files.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
The so that just comes automatically through the exchange.
Got it.
Um, no, no need for bridge. This wouldn't drive any need for bridge specifically. Um, if you weren't using it already for those data sources that you have connected, um, this wouldn't add any additional requirement for bridge. I don't think then. The other thing, though, is so if you're on cloud, you have to allow access to the extension files. So let me kind of go through what this would look like to host and some of the errors that we would see. Um,
And Eric, while you're doing that, does extensions have any performance? Like, have you ever tried to record the performance of the visualization? Just, is it,
yeah.
yeah,
Um, I haven't done any extensive testing, but I have done some testing for sure specifically with tables, just because tables aren't the best option for any Tableau workbook. And they do run a lot faster within from a Viz extension because the load is being um, taken out of the workbook, whether that workbook is cloud or desktop. You're pushing that load over to the server that's hosting those files. So everything's rendered off of the Tableau resources, and Tableau is just basically displaying those things.
got it, got it.
So I haven't tested all Viz types, but definitely, where it matters for tables, since they're slower within Tableau, it's definitely faster with the extension than trying to build a native table. Um,
Thank you.
no problem. Yeah. So Tom, I'm gonna attempt a load or publish of this, and we can see how that end-to-end run looks when we're um, trying to publish this to Cloud and have it work nicely. Okay, so I'm just logging into my sandbox server, which by the way, anyone can receive free of charge from the DataDev efforts. If you don't have that set up yet, then I'll put I can include the link somewhere, but uh, like this server I'm about to show is provisioned by Tableau for free. So it's a nice resource for sure when you're doing anything with APIs and these extensions and things. Not just APIs, but any workbook. So I'm logged in. I'm gonna do publish workbook, and I haven't played around. I haven't like done this with this workbook yet, so we'll just see how it goes. I'm just gonna say default 3 testing extensions, data source embedded. Don't need that. Publish should be quick. It's small. So here are kind of the elements that we're going to need to get this running on cloud. Get my credentials again. Password this time, just the code. Okay. So now I'm logged in and I've published. So this is, yeah, just the message, regular message on publishing. So publish sheet 2. Let me see. Wasn't paying attention to what I was loading, but yeah, that's the extension one. So when I go to sheet 2, I'm expecting an error and we're getting that. So here's, one of the things that for sure will happen. This happened to me. Yeah. So my trex file is currently pointed at localhost, and what loads with the workbook is exactly how it's been loaded within desktop, where when I selected the trex, it's the trex that's running localhost or looking at localhost. So unless you do that thing I was talking about with server, then this is not going to work. And so that's the first thing we need to fix. I'm going to go to a new workbook and show. So I have another trex file that I just append, or I always have the hosted in the name to help. I'm just going to look at this even in Notepad. So we see it's similar. The only change on this is going to be the URL, and I haven't published this there yet. So let me actually show you how. This is just like my own solution for hosting. It's at ext.tableauops.com. you can create free accounts here and host your extensions. The everything is private, but the option to make it publicly available exists as well, or to share to a smaller set of people. It doesn't have to be wide open public. But basically, I'm going to drop this folder that includes, it's got the hosted, it has all of these elements. I'm going to drop out that little test I was doing with another. So I'm going to drop the root level folder that all of this is running in, which we've seen is the from zero. So I just copy that over. What's nice is it checks for all the files that are required for an extension. And we can see those are loaded here. So I've got the viz.hosted, viz.trex, index, and the library that were all in there. And got a little preview that runs here. I wonder if I change it, can see changes, can help with troubleshooting. But the important part from here is getting so there was already a URL in the Trex for this hosted, but it wasn't correct. So this, now that I've published this on Tableau Ops, this is the actual URL that's required. This is just the custom ID'd. This points at the folder that includes that index file. So that's what I want to take to, actually it was in the notebook here. I want to take that here and paste the full URL in here. So now you can see it's got the just the generated ID. But let's look and see what happens if I try to hit that. It might run because I'm logged in, but if I weren't logged in, then you'll just get an error on this page with no access. So now I have it hosted publicly, and I have the workbook. The only thing we haven't done yet is this version or page is still looking at the old localhost Trex. So what I want to need to do is add another extension. This different Trex file acts as its own separate extension, and this is the workbook that wasn't loading, but we'll see if it does. I'll try this one. Add extension. This is rendering like the Exchange site. I don't know if that's why sometimes it can lag. Actually, I haven't seen it this bad ever before, but it could also be just everything I'm trying to run at the same time. It's slowing it down. Let me think. Yeah, I can't publish this workbook pointing at the hosted version without this loading. So kind of stuck. So let me share one more thing that will happen when you start to try to host these on cloud, or one more thing you need to set up. I already have the extension host URL in my, oh, here we go, sweet. So again, I'm clicking access local, and this is the localhost version. And this is my hosted version of the Trex that I just saved. So I'm going to select that one. And if everything is working correctly, then actually that hasn't updated. Let me see. Wonder if I didn't save it. So this is from 0. Hello Viz hosted. Close it. Okay, let me think. It's actually might be that this okay, so we can see it's been updated, but it's not loading that version in Tableau. Let me go back. There might have been a cached version. So this is 923, that's current. Okay, now we can see the extension URL has updated to my hosted version. That's what we need to see. And it's also started loading. So I'm going to allow the extension. Not sure what that is. Oh, that's gonna, it's still running, so I don't know what, there is some other element that's not running, but I threw in, I wanted to make sure that we knew, or it was easy to see whether the local or hosted version was the connected version. And so this is running, showing that it's the hosted version. We can still do, let's see, case status and department. I don't know if the error that was shown was going to prevent this, but it looks like it's still going to load here. And then duration with the average. Okay, so we have this running. And we're still logged in, signed into Tableau Ops, my sandbox. So I'm going to publish this version of it. This would all be required if, if I had gone through this and had the local host still connected. You have to republish the workbook so it can pick up the changes to the hosted Trex file. I'm going to embed that in the workbook. I'm going to save over testing extensions. Now, I'm expecting one more error, and then we can, this is sheet 3. So now it's showing, I published the workbook, that's standard. When I go to sheet 3, I still have another error. And what this is just that the hosted URL has to be also whitelisted on the cloud side, and that has to be done by an admin. So the way to do that is go back to Explore and then Settings, and then there's a specific tab for extensions in Settings. And you can see here I haven't whitelisted any hosts for the like the web elements of an extension. all you have to do is add the URL, and that's just going to be the same exact URL that was added to the trex file. You can also wildcard this, but it's a little bit different than usual. I think you have to do, um, I don't remember the exact syntax, but you have to do like a period and then a star. I'll try that. And then your admin would have access to these two options. This is an option that can be put into the trex file so that data access from within, so that the extension can access the data. That doesn't mean it's sharing the data or that the data is going necessarily anywhere else, but you do need to be careful if you have a bad actor that you're hosting or that you're using an extension from. Data can be, if this is granted, data could be siphoned off from your data source, like the JavaScript could exist that could do that if you didn't know who necessarily what the host was or the publisher, then just be careful of that. That is also, again, what's nice about Tableau Exchange is they have certified, they have their own hosted extensions there, but they've also certified like La Viz, wait, La La Data Viz, was getting it mixed up, but La Data Viz is like a certified partner in extensions, so Tableau recognizes them as safe. But not every extension on the exchange has that certification. So just a warning on allowing extensions is that if it would be possible for a developer to steal data through an extension. That's another reason why I needed and wanted local and self-hosted, because there I didn't want any risk in not understanding a public or an other outside third-party developer on the extension. So that's what this gives you, the ability to self-host and have that security. So I'm going to click save. This wildcard might be incorrect, but I'm going to go back to the workbook and check on that. It's in default, I believe. Testing extensions. Go to sheet 3. So it's again gonna prompt to allow, and we'll look at fixing that as well. So that was the wildcard. I put a period and then a star, and it would wildcard the rest of any URL you did there. Let me go back to one more thing that's nice for your users. You saw that prompt come up to request that the extension could have access within the workbook. And that is another setting here that I didn't change. So user prompts, that will pop up every time. It doesn't matter if the user has already accepted it. It will pop up every time you load the workbook, unless you change this and say hide and save. Now, if I go back again, testing extensions, sheet 3. This time it just loads without that prompt to accept it. So those are the two major things on the cloud side that you need, are to whitelist the host of your extension, and then if you want to turn off that prompt, then this should run. The other, as long as those files are accessible from cloud. So that's it. So basically, when you're testing and building locally, Thanks, Mithun. Good to see you. When you're testing and building locally, make sure you're running your local host. You've got your web folder or elements running within that local host, and you're using the trex connected to the local host. Then when you move to public, wanting to show this or share this or use this on cloud, then get your files hosted and then whitelist everything from the cloud side. So that's the setup. I wanted to share just as a last thing. I appreciate everyone attending. I am selling a kit that's kind of a pre-built. There are 10 pre-built, let's see, pre-built extensions there. Get to that. Make sure I get the right link here. If you go to, yeah, I'll share this out, but go to Tableau ops.com/kit. Then it will load that page. There are, I believe, 10 pre-built extensions in there that are just plug and play. The price here is $99, but if you use this from zero, then it will be $20 off. But there's also have a free skill, which I would highly recommend. You get the skill will kind of prompt. It's specific for Claude, but it will help if you're using AI to. Thanks, Carolyn. If you're using AI to develop, then that skill will direct Claude to get past some of the common errors that you see when Claude is building your extensions for you. So let me just go to my main page here. So that's this one, Tableau extension skill, and that one's free. So grab that. If you are building these with Claude, super helpful. I think I've done a test on, now that I've had this skill kind of built out. The stats on it are that I was able to build a far better extension with the skill it was 1.5 minutes with the skill versus 8.5 minutes without the skill, and the quality was higher, much higher. So that's free. You just put the skill in the folder that you're developing from, or where you're prompting Claude code from, and it just works. So thanks everyone for joining. If you have any questions, then shoot me a message on LinkedIn. And yeah, hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Tom, Carolyn, Iris. Good to see you. Bye.